Pick your favorite product and tell us how you would improve it. Hey everyone, I'm super excited to be here today with Alex to do a mock product management interview question. In today's mock interview, we're going to be talking about how to improve a product. But before I jump into it, Alex, could you go ahead and introduce yourself for folks watching?
Sure. Thanks very much, Stephen. Very good to be here. I'm a big fan of your channel and just the work that you do in general, helping other folks get into product management. My name, like you said, is Alex. I am a product manager at Google, and I used to do mobile games and other apps. Before that, I used to do a little bit of consulting and also startups type of work. In general, I love the product management field. I think it's a very interesting career. I think it's going to be a lot of big demand increases and changes coming in the next 5, 10, 15 years. And so I think folks that are interested in getting into the space should definitely watch the channel. I actually have my own channel where I talk about product management. Happy to have folks come by and check those videos out as well. But very excited to be here. Very excited to get into some product management questions.
Awesome. And for folks watching, if you want to check out Alex's YouTube channel, it'll be in the description below. So definitely check it out. And super excited to be here today doing another Exponent mock interview. For those who don't know, Exponent helps you land your dream tech job with our online courses, coaching, and community. We believe that interviewing shouldn't be something you do alone, but you do with other people to help you prep in a community and an awesome learning experience. So definitely, if you're interviewing for product management roles or other tech roles, check out tryexponent.com. All right, without further ado, Alex, I'd love to get into the mock interview. So as mentioned, today's question will be, pick your favorite product and tell us how you would improve it.
Pick your favorite product and tell us how you'd improve it. Sounds good. So let me switch into my interviewee mode. I'm usually in interviewer mode, Stephen. You got me off guard here a little bit. So I have a few products that come to mind. I think what I'd like to do is tell you about a few of these products and then maybe tell you what I think in general makes something a good product, like sort of my framework for thinking about it. And then we can talk about why I think those products fit those descriptions. And do you want to focus on any particular type of product, like a mobile app or a web product, or maybe a physical product like guitars or like a bookshelf or something? Anything in particular?
I can see you like guitars, but yeah, let's stick to a software product for this particular question, but that's a great follow-up question, and this question does vary depending on how it's asked, if they may pick a subset of the set of products that exist in the world.
Totally. So yeah, if you want to stick with software, a few products that I am a fan of and I think are well designed are StreamYard, which is a streaming platform. I think that's web-based primarily. I think LinkedIn is pretty well designed, actually. That's obviously multi-platform. On the app side of things, I really like I was going to say Webull and Acorns. We could talk about Acorns specifically. There's a whole suite of financial apps. But I think Acorns is probably the most well-designed, the one that I think has my attention the most. In terms of the framework for how I think about what makes something well-designed, there's a couple things. First of all, it has to be a useful product or service. It has to be something that actually solves a need. It has to be a product that people actually, that basically solves an existing problem that people have. And the more painful the problem, the more frequent the problem, the better, because the more important the solution becomes. So that's my first criteria. The second criteria is probably going to be the second and third are going to be probably a toss-up in between what's more important. But I think the second one is going to be the design aspect, is how the aesthetics, really, like how well does it look? How does it make you feel as the user? Is it pleasing to interact with, to look at, and to engage with? That's going to be the second one. And the third one, I think, is again kind of overlaps with the second one, but it is this I think of it in terms of as exciters. So when you think of a product, the product could have these base needs, sort of like it just addresses your needs. But there could be some products that are exceptional. They actually get you excited about the product and want you and make you want to actually share that product with others. So when you think of probably the iPhone versus the phones that were available at the time that it came out. It was an exceptional product in all three of those. And actually, iPhone is a good one, but we're talking about software here. So thinking about how, for instance, Acorns fits into that. The need Acorns, what Acorns actually does is it allows anyone to become an investor. You don't have to put in a lot of time. Everything is automatic. You don't have to put in big amounts. You don't have to know anything about the stock market. It just removes the obstacles to become an investor, to saving for all, essentially for all people. You can get started with as little as $10. And so the need that's there is that everyone ultimately wants to be better financially, wants to have more money. And so, but not everybody knows about investing. Not everybody knows how to work with finances, how to make your money work for you, all of this stuff. And so the need is to allow everyone to become an investor, and Acorns does that. Now, we'll talk about how it does that and how there's maybe even potential areas for improvement. But first of all, it does that. So it allows anybody with as little as $10 to automatically invest whenever they have spare money available, or to invest spare change or automatically or what have you, and very simply get you to participate in the stock market game, which is this long-term investment opportunity. The second piece of it is the design. It's exceptionally well designed. Everything feels very intuitive. Everything feels good. It looks great. The UI, the gestures, the way that you move essentially from screen to screen, and you accomplish whether you want to make it connect your first account or make your first deposit or look at some sort of a partner opportunity. It's all very fluid. Great, I think, great color scheme, great design element, and the exceptional part. So this exciter part is where it just works, and it just works so easily. And you feel like you've never been an investor, suddenly you become an investor, and you're really partaking in this thing that everybody's talking about, the Dow and NASDAQ and all of this stuff, and you're participating in it. You little tidbits of news, ability to choose your portfolio even from a few options, but you feel like you're really navigating, the traversing this financial terrain. So I think it makes me as a user, I think I fit the profile for the type of user that they're going for. It makes me excited about the product, want to share it with others. And I think, in fact, we'll probably get quite a lot of people to sign up for Acorns just from this video if they've never heard of it. And it's not an affiliate link or anything like that. So that's why I think it fits into those criteria. We could talk about these other products, or if you want, we could go into more in depth. How would you like to proceed?
Yeah, thanks for checking in. I mean, first of all, Acorns, while I haven't used it, love the mission and love the way you described that framework. Let's deep dive on Acorns. I would love to hear a little bit more about maybe what makes it so special to you, but also getting a little bit closer to the part where we talk about how you'd improve the product and how you'd make it even better if you could.
That's a tall order. I should have picked a worse product. That's the first thing that I think of, honestly, because that's a solid product. So diving in a little bit, if our goal here is to figure out, okay, how can we improve this product? Let's start maybe putting pen to paper here and thinking about how we're going to approach this question. So I think what we'll do is, and maybe just give me a minute, I'll think through how I want to approach it. I'll just kind of have a rough framework. Maybe I can actually, if you don't mind, I will talk through this, but I reserve the right to make edits as we go. It's sort of going to be a live brainstorming session. So I think I want to create a structure for myself about how I want to answer a question like improve Acorns, which is a phenomenal app that I've been using for a long time, tons of users, I think a lot of revenue. I don't know about their profitability, but I think it's just a great product. And it, according to my own framework, it passes on all counts. So that's going to be tough. So to approach this, I want to figure out how I'm going to do it. So first thing, I'm going to make sure that I understand what Acorns is. So I'm just writing down Acorns. We're going to talk about what it is, what it's not, That's going to lead us into talking about the mission statement of the company. Obviously, I don't know it, but we can figure it out. We can kind of unravel it. The mission, the vision, what are they trying to do? What's the aim of the product and the company? If it's one product, if it's a one product company, that it's one and the same. And that will lead us into kind of understanding the business side of things. But primarily, we do want to obviously focus on the users, the customers. And so the next stage is for us to think about who are the actual users of Acorns, specifically what type of segments of users or what type of meaningful way can we describe a user base, or maybe multiple user bases. The next point is we're going to talk about this problem that it solves for the users. So these are the users. What are the problems that we might talk about it all together? But the idea is Acorns is a product. It solves some sort of big problem because it's got a lot of users. So we understand what that problem is, or maybe a set of problems. And next, we're going to talk about what the actual use cases are. Use cases, I mean the actual sort of journeys of those users or those user segments and the groups that we talked about. How do they actually interact with the product in order to solve their problem? So we'll talk about some use cases. And then we will talk about the value, why these users actually use this product to solve their problem. So we'll get into the why a little bit. So that's the why on the user side. And that will lead us into thinking about, okay, so we understand the mission, we understand the problem that it solves for these users. Here's their experiences, their use cases. Now, why do they actually use this product as opposed to maybe other products that are out? So we'll look at some alternatives. What else could they be using in order to accomplish these same results? Then we'll talk about, we'll go back to the business, having understood all that, hopefully in some detail. We'll go back to the business side of things and we'll think about, okay, what are some potential opportunities for improvement? We will leverage the mission that we talked about. We'll leverage an understanding of our users and their needs, and we'll try to come up with some potential vectors for improvement, we'll call this. Vectors for improvement. The reason I'm calling them vectors for improvement is because we need a little bit of a sub-process in order to actually think about improvement. We can't just think, okay, let's improve it. And for vectors for improvement, we will leverage some of the stuff that we discovered along the way. But also I want to be thinking about stuff like, okay, what are some quick wins in general? Is there something that we can do to help these users accomplish these use cases and solve their problems a little bit better? We'll think about quick wins. We will think about since it's an app, we'll think about maybe the user life cycle, just from awareness of the app through acquisition and retention, engagement, monetization, referral. We'll use that framework to think about, is there anything along any of those paths that we might either leverage into a quick win or that are just obvious deficiencies or something that we want to pursue. So we'll just call that the app user life cycle. I'm talking you through this. Ordinarily, I'd maybe write it down and then just give it to you straight, but I like this. And if you, by the way, if you think that you'd like to zoom in a particular area, just let me know either now or as we're talking about it, because obviously we only have a limited amount of time. The Acorns product folks work all year round on this stuff. We're only going to do this for 30 minutes.
Totally. I do want to call out, Alex, and to the viewers watching, one thing that Alex is doing really effectively, and I'll give you feedback about this at the end, is this live brainstorming sort of tactic is a great way to explain what you're thinking about to the interviewer without really committing to anything. And I think that's a really effective thing that Alex is doing right now, which is like, hey, I'm going to brainstorm. This is kind of how I'm scoping it out. But hey, don't take any of this like pen to paper yet. I'm still kind of figuring it out. And for you, Alex, would love to focus on which parts you feel like are more interesting. Definitely, we might not have time to get through every single part of it in full detail, but definitely, as you go through it, we can spend a little bit more time in the parts that feel a little more interesting or novel or worthwhile to the exercise.
Yeah, makes sense. This is totally agree with you, Stephen. By the way, this could be depending. Use this technique at your discretion, but be aware of the time constraints. So I'm kind of assuming Steven's going to hang with me regardless, but in an actual interview, you're only going to have 10, 15, 20 minutes. So be careful whether you want to do this big discussion, or you right away sort of skip the middleman and just say, nope, we're not gonna do this. We're gonna focus on this stuff. So yeah, good call out, Stephen. All right, so after we go through that, we're going to identify those vectors of improvement. We'll talk about the pros and cons, right? Like, okay, can we deliver some feature here? Why is it bad? Why is it good? What are the repercussions? We'll talk about the trade-offs of those, and then finally, we will probably finalize a solution or a set of solutions that we feel good about. And that will probably have its own framework in terms of like, okay, here's the stuff that we're going to do early on. Here's some foundational stuff that we want to build. So, and then we'll recap everything that we talked about. Okay, so I'm done with the structure. Done. Thank you very much, Stephen. Pleasure meeting you. I think that was a job well done. Now comes the actual hard part of actually doing this stuff. So let's try to stick with the plan. But if stuff, it feels like we're spending too much time, Stephen, feel free to just nudge me along. And simultaneously, if you want to dive in on something a little bit more, just say, hey, let's dive in here.
Totally.
All right. So first, for Acorns. All right. So we talked about what it is. We obviously think it's an awesome product. I think the mission is we can start out from allow anyone to invest. That's like very, very specific, because that is literally what it is, right? Remove the obstacles to investing for anyone. No minimum requirements, no nothing. But then if you look a little bit deeper, like, is that really a good mission? Maybe the mission is for everyone to be financially prosperous, like help all people prosper financially. If it depends, it's like a sort of a light touch on the framing, but it's actually going to change the way that we approach everything as a result. So I think that it depends a little bit on the position of Acorns. Like if we're still a startup, and I don't know exactly what they've got a ton of paying users, so I think they're okay in terms of funding, but depending on where they are, they may want to frame the mission as something specific, like allow anyone to invest we could just allow anyone to invest. That's very specific. That allows them to really hyper focus. Like our mission is all about allowing anyone to invest easily. That's sort of like a little bit rough. I'm not a huge fan of this for now. But the other one, if we expand all the way out, it is help everyone on the path to financial well-being. Right? Enable financial well-being. So if we take that one, if Acorns is a little bit further along, then that's actually a great spot, because now you can go into a variety of financial products. And now that I think about it, I think they have savings accounts, and I think they have retirement and educational plans. So enable financial, what did I actually say? Enable financial success or financial, help everyone, or we want to enable.
I think you mentioned financial well-being.
Financial well-being. That's it. Right. That's it. Thank you. Thank you for paying attention, Stephen. This is the downside of live brainstorming, right? So enable financial well-being. I really like that. For now, we might change it to get a little bit more precise. But what I like about that is that certainly getting people to start investing is a key component of enabling financial well-being. Certainly educating about finances, helping you plan for your family, insurance, checkings and all kinds of financial instruments, educational products, all that stuff enables financial well-being. I'm good with that for now. Let's pick that and keep going. Now let's think about the users. The great thing about Acorns is that theoretically, if our goal is to enable financial well-being, basically almost everybody is our user. Because there's obviously the majority of folks are not billionaires. In fact, everyone is not a billionaire, and the majority of folks are still not millionaires. And by the way, when I'm talking about folks, who do I mean? Do I mean just sort of US, which is maybe where Acorns is based? Do I mean the more developed economies, or do I mean everybody? And I think for our purposes, we should focus on the more industrialized economies. So we'll start, even just to keep our focus simple, we'll start with the US. But I know that's a gross oversimplification. Obviously, we want to eventually enable financial well-being for everybody, but it brings an entirely different suite of problems. For now, we're just to narrow our focus, we're going to go with US. So we're focusing on the US. So we've got about 320 million people. Who are our users? The primary users are those that have never invested and don't know how to invest. Maybe they are just in college or just after college in their 20s and 30s, maybe even 40s. I'm sure there's plenty of folks that are in their 50s and 60s that have not invested and don't know how to invest. But I think the investing, and when we're talking about financial well-being, a key instrument to investing is leverage and compound interest. Right? It's like those two things are at the heart of a lot of financial instruments. And in order to leverage compound interest, the younger you are, the earlier you start, the better. And so to have the biggest impact, the biggest effect on people, we should start on the folks that are in their 20s and the 30s, potentially even earlier. But we'll have to think about what are the additional difficulties associated with, for instance, getting kids to learn about investment. I mean, potentially, if you get someone that's 10 years old to start investing, it's actually a lot more powerful than if you get someone at 25 or 35. And so eventually we may want to tackle that. But for now, let's just keep it to, I think, people in their 20s and 30s. I'm forgetting to write this down, and I'm going to forget later myself. So people in their 20s and 30s in the US, that our first user segment is going to be that have never invested and are not doing well financially. They might, by the way, they might have different financial situations. Some of them might have debts, some might have students' debts, different family situations. We're going to just for now set that aside, and we might deal with that when we're talking about edge cases and making sort of sanity checking ourselves. But for now, let's just call it people that basically have not invested. And there are also other folks that actually are sort of beginner investors. And the difference, why I want to kind of call out the difference there, is because the first group of people, they've not invested, so they might not even have an interest in investing. They might not know of the different ways that you can invest, the different apps that are available, different products. And the beginner investors, they might. And so there you get into discussion of competitors and already a certain level of acumen of this investor, and we might have different considerations. Let's just stop there because we have so much ground to cover. We'll stop with those folks. Does that sound good? Like, should we keep looking, or is that okay for now?
Yeah, thanks for checking in. I'd love to hammer in on those user segments. That sounds great. I do want to be mindful of time too. So if we can maybe focus on getting to our point where we can really improve that product for those users, that would be awesome.
Sounds good. So why don't we stick, in that case, we're going to choose just one of those, and we're going to go with the folks that have never invested, So let's talk about the problem that those folks have. So they have the first problem that they have is that they don't know they need to invest. So it's just we're going to call this an educational gap. And then after that, we're going to call all obstacles. So all the actual obstacles that are in the way of investing. And in that, it could be the educational part is they don't know about it. And the obstacles are they don't know how to start. They don't know where to invest. Like, I don't know where to invest. I don't know how to start investing. Educational is more the why of it. And the obstacles are more the things that are actually stopping me. Like, I don't know how to, this one is unlikely to be a serious problem. It's like, I don't know how to, so there's one that's, I don't know how to fundamentally have enough money left over. I don't know how to save enough money to invest. Can't save enough to invest. Right? And that one's actually going to catch a lot of people, like a big portion. And we can actually focus on that problem because that seems critical. So where to invest, we could probably figure it out if we had the money. How to start, again, if we had the money, we can investigate it. Educational is a foundational one. I'll start that one. For me, educational is foundational because the why. Why should I invest? I don't believe it, et cetera, et cetera. It's not for me, it's for someone else. So that one. And then the bigger one is I can't save. I can't save enough money. I'm constantly in debt, or maybe I'm in debt already. So let's talk about that problem. The way that Acorn actually solves that problem is they say that don't worry about it. We're just going to do you have a few cents? We're just going to round up your purchases. When you buy your coffee, we're just going to round up 20 cents and we're going to automatically invest that for you. So that's the way that I think that Acorns just solves that problem. They just automate that entire process. So simultaneously tell you, yes, you do have enough. Do you have enough to round up your change? Then you have enough. So essentially, they minimalize or minimize the amount that can be invested, and they also automate it so that there's no thought required automated. Now let's think about the alternatives. Okay, so when you're buying a coffee, the only alternative is you need some process of being able to actually take that 20 cents and putting it aside and then investing it into account. It's just unreasonable for you to do that yourself. So basically no alternative by doing it manually. The only alternatives would be our other apps that also have a number of features that they do, among which presumably this is one of the things they do. And in fact, I even started out with a competitor called Stash, which I started out and then I eventually switched because this allowed me to automate the amounts a little bit easier and also see the progress and see where I'm going, to visualize what I'm actually going to get in those 10, 20, 30 years. So we digressed a little bit, but so let's focus on the folks that are why Acorns is doing well on that. But we've noted that this is a potential competitive problem that could exist there if competitors just simply do the same feature. Then it becomes back to the marketing question of like, can you drive more users than the competitor? What's the actual competitive advantages? So one vector for improvement here is we need unique aspects to the experience. So we need something that's going to help us capture and then keep the users. So actually, I think from those two, it's going to be the capture users that's going to be critical. Let's now, going back to our structure here, let's see make sure that we've gone through the alternatives. So alternatives for investment, of course, traditional accounts, but that doesn't work for the problem of I can't save enough. There are probably automatic budget apps out there that will automatically maybe transfer into your savings account some money so you don't have it available. So that's technically that is an alternative, but compared to actually taking your funds and actually unlocking future investment opportunities, automatic to transfer to savings just doesn't really match up. So since in the interest of time, let's go deeper into this area as opposed to thinking about other vectors for improvement. Let's think about this way. So what can we do? We've identified this competitive. Right now, it's a competitive advantage where we will automatically round up, but we want to turn it into a unique proposition, which is not that easy to copy. So I think that's going to be our stretch goal, honestly, because a lot of the times there is certainly a certain first mover advantage when you deliver a feature and then you can market it appropriately. And so for us, I think having that feature is just one piece of the puzzle. We've got to actually solve the user acquisition funnel is equally or more important than the actual product design. And that's actually, now that I think about our overall structure, when we think of product design, instinctively we think about, okay, let's change the product, let's add this feature here, let's move the UI components around, let's try these for the new user segments. That's true. But when you think of designing the product in its entirety, you've got to think about your GTM and your actual user acquisition before you do your product design. So,
and Alex,
yeah,
to quickly interrupt, what does GTM mean, like for folks watching it?
Sorry,
I'm familiar, but yeah.
GTM is go to market. So a lot of times, like I said, the focus is on the product, sort of like an engineering focus. But as a product manager, you've got to treat it as a business. You can't only look at it from the product perspective, because even if it's the best product in the world, it won't sell itself. So you've got marketing considerations. A lot of times you've got sales considerations. How are you going to let people know about, how are they going to find out? You know, it's a very sort of an amateur perspective where it's like, I'm just going to build this best widget maker and it'll sell itself. Very, very rarely is that the case. And so, and even we fell down this trap as we started to work down here, right? Like I didn't identify that early on, but as we dove deeper, we actually uncovered it. And so we have to go back a little bit and just say that remember when we were going to look through the awareness, acquisition, engagement funnel? So we would have caught it there as well, because we would have looked at that and said, well, wait a minute, how are people finding out about it? And so I think that in the situation with Acorns, actually, people are, I think these users, the users that we're talking about, the ones that have never invested before, are finding the experience so exceptional that they are actually spreading the message on. Kind of similar to what I'm doing here right now, but they actually, there's referrals, and they introduce their friends and maybe their family members, and so the referral piece is when these users continue to refer folks, brings back all the way back to acquisition. So that's something for us to think about, is potentially leveraging a strong referral system, because the whole point here is we're trying to enable financial well-being. And financial well-being is driven, in our case, by the accumulation of assets and correct investment of assets. So the first part is just accumulation of assets. The second part is actually directing those funds to the right avenues where they can actually yield a return. And so in both cases, we can leverage our network in order to increase our financial sort of net worth, and to help the folks that are in our network increase their financial net worth as well. So let's take a moment here. Let's zoom out here for a moment and recap. We wanted to focus on the users that actually can't save enough and they have not invested. And so we want to, and also partially on the education, the folks that don't actually know about these investment opportunities. And we are thinking through of which features they like in Acorns. We've identified the fact that they like this roundup feature. They like the automatic investment. They like the fact that they don't have to think about it. And they like the fact that it's minimal amounts. Those are the features that Acorns has right now that keeps them there. So one of the things we're talking about is coming up with a unique perspective to actually hold them there. So now let's think about what are the different ways that we can actually hold them in there once we've got them. This is the keep aspect of it. So we can offer them additional, ultimately the purpose is to enable financial well-being. So we can offer them additional ways to increase their financial well-being. That means we can help them. We can help them save money as they go on about their life. And we're going to talk about what that means. So other ways to save money. We can help them make money. And we'll talk about what that actually means. And we can help them increase their financial trajectory, meaning potentially we can actually look at their career prospects, because those are going to influence their earning capacity. So when we break down finances, it's what you make, it's what you spend, and it's what you invest. Those are the three levers, right? I think. So how can we help them make more money, save more money, and invest meaningfully? If we break those down, to make more money, we could, for now, this is brainstorming stage, so anything goes. We could potentially take on a sort of a career component. This doesn't necessarily jive immediately with enable financial well-being, but it does in the long term, which is what we're about. So let's not cross it off the list for now. Plus, when we're thinking of improvements, we want to do, I think, long-term big bets, and we also want to do quick wins. So career trajectory and maybe education, investing in education, investing in a potential career shift would be a long-term. That's a long-term play, and we'll think about what that could be. Now, how can we help them save money? Well, we need to understand more about their life, and we need to understand the ways that they inefficiently spend money right now and bring that to their attention. So there's a couple of things we could do there. Let me just zoom out. So for saving, we have access to their account, so we technically know everything that they spend money on and all the money that's coming in. So we could use the incoming money coming in signals in order to understand any potential career recommendations. Obviously, there's privacy implications, legal implications, regulatory stuff. We're going to just hold those aside for now. Assume that everything that we come up here will go through that review, where we're going to think a little bit more deeply about all the privacy implications, and also when we consider edge cases. So again, we're talking about saving money. We're talking about how can we help them. And again, to take it back up top, we're trying to figure out ways to keep the users on the platform once we've actually got them on the platform. If we help them save money, we need to understand their purchasing habits. We can find partners that will allow us to offer them things that they already use, but at better rates. And that could actually be a potential business play as well. If we understand, we can sort of understand and predict the demand for something just by analyzing our existing user base, which is substantial. So partner with services and businesses on provision of whatever it is our users are actually consuming. We can also analyze spending. We could work together with the users to analyze their spending habits and to surface those spending habits back to them in order to show to them, okay, would you rather have spent on coffee or would you rather see it as $10,000 in 20 years? So I think we have, because of the way that we have got these users in and showing them what exactly they're saving for, because one of the components of Acorns is it's to visualize your future income and your future net worth. We can actually think about this feature as a visualization that helps you save.
Awesome. And just to chime in there, Alex, let's imagine we have about like 3 to 5 minutes left in the interview. And so we're sort of wrapping up or getting close to the end of the time.
Sure. Folks, don't do this. I've made cardinal mistake, right? Yeah, I've talked too long. I'm very excited about the product, but yes. So to wrap it up, let's see. With 3 minutes, I probably wouldn't have time to come up with any more really big sort of specific features. And maybe I would identify some vectors for improvement and talk about why it's important, and also double down on the choices that we've talked about so far. So. We've attacked the keep opportunity. The capture opportunity is, we can similarly break that down into how do we make the barrier to entry smaller? So that means how can we make the onboarding? We improve the onboarding so we can make it seamless, less steps, less verification required. We have to figure out how to leverage other signals in order to shorten the onboarding process and get you to put that first dollar in as soon as possible. Then the third piece that I want to focus on, since we have very little time, is this referral piece, which I think is really not leveraged enough with this company. Because part of the problem eventually when people start copying our products is going to be, sure, we're going to help you get into investing if you've never done it before. Sure, we'll figure out new ways to make you save. But also, we're going to give you new ways of earning money. We talked about this, like how do you make money? By helping your friends, family, and whatever. If you have any kind of platform, use it to actually spread the word. Meaningfully, will make it easy to have those other users sign up. We will give you money because there's certain intrinsic value to every new user. We will give you some money, and we want to make it easy to talk about this platform. We want to make it fun, and we want to visualize it and help other users visualize it in such a way that they can see the future and the opportunity they have in front of them. And so to help folks refer better, we can actually draw an impact map. We can have every user see what their impact on their network is, that they've helped their network so far make $1,000, $5,000. Down the line, it's going to be $10 million, and we can help visualize that with a tree, because the whole point of it is acorns, right? You're planting a tree. So now you're planting maybe a forest, and we could just go really, really focused on that. We didn't get a chance to talk about it a lot, but that's actually probably one of my biggest pet peeves with acorns is I've told a bunch of my friends about it. I didn't really have to. There's no big emphasis on that inside the app. And so I think if we really focus in on our mission of enabling financial well-being, we've got to leverage this, getting everybody into it. For instance, Webull does this beautifully. You get a stock, I get a stock. We all start investing together. Acorns is better than Webull because there's less volatility, and we don't invest in individual stocks, and we don't gamble, right? Well, we still gamble, but not as much. So I think this is that third piece. How do we capture more users? Using referrals. How do we keep them? Using our strategy of helping them make more money, save more money, and also invest meaningfully. So that's probably how I would wrap up. But obviously, we could talk a lot more about it. Questions?
Awesome. I mean, Alex, this is so great and like such a great detail. And I wish I could have spent even more time with you. Obviously, interviews are a certain amount of length, and we try to keep these videos around that interview length. And so that's why I sort of was trying to wrap it up at the end. But this is like really cool, and it really shined at the end, especially with the impact map and all those really cool ideas. While I don't have maybe as much time, I'd love to focus, instead of on follow-up questions, I'd love to actually focus on self-feedback. We believe in that strongly here at Exponent. Would love to hear your thoughts on like what went really well and what you would have changed with that particular interview answer. And then I can share some of the detailed notes I wrote about why this is such an awesome answer and why I loved it.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. First of all, I appreciate it. It's a pleasure talking to you. I think let me kind of break it down. So I did not prep for this, which is I think why you get the bad and the good, and but it's also very authentic, I think, and hopefully will be useful for a lot of folks, because obviously at the interview you can't prep for everything. So here's the stuff that I think went well. You and I have, I think, great rapport together. Like, it's just easy to talk. I really respect you as a person. I like Exponent, and it's very easy to talk to you. But I like to keep things conversational as much as possible. And I understand that, by the way, not everybody's going to be super comfortable with that. And I totally tell a lot of folks that if you're more comfortable, take the time to write down the notes and then speak. But I really like this conversational approach. I know later on I hogged the time because I felt like we were running out of time, but I like the conversational and brainstorming together. And ordinarily I would ask you to talk, to give me more ideas as we go. But also that's the good. But then the bad is the time. Time management can just destroy an excellent interview. And I even felt it, like I've done hundreds of these interviews, right? So it should be pretty comfortable for me to talk about it. But then the moment you said, hey, Alex, we're running out of time, I was like, oh, wait, we're running out of time. I'm not going to get the job. I've got to get serious about this, right? So I looked at my structure and I started to think, okay, what can I cut? It's even tough for me to say, since the question was improve the product, right? I should have gone through, that preamble faster. I should have prioritized it in my mind and given myself more time, especially since I have no ideas coming into it. I should have given myself more cushion to talk about, okay, what am I going to improve? Because, that stuff that we came up with, I think there was a couple of good ideas, a couple of nuggets in there, but that's hard to come up with on the fly. And you got to give yourself that cushion. And so I think that's where I like the structure that I built, but it was ultimately, I think, a little bit too long for what we needed in the framework of our question.
Got it. Well, I definitely agree with what you're saying, Alex. I'm going to read through some of the notes that I wrote. Overall, I thought you did an amazing job with this interview. Things that I really, really loved about this interview, you started off with a framework. How do I think about a favorite product? I think about it as useful, it's the design and the excitement. And throughout the interview, you kind of scattered around some of these moments where you're like, hey, let me think about this. Okay, this is how I think about it. And here, let me move forward. And that shows that you have the more senior product management knowledge where you've actually thought about this stuff. You have a perspective on some of these things, which I think makes it a very effective and more senior level interview, actually, when you can kind of articulate, like, this is my take on this space, or this is my opinion and my philosophy, kind of. I love the live brainstorming that we did. I love that you often mapped out where you were going to go. One of the biggest mistakes is just jumping straight into it. And I know we may have spent a little bit more on the framework that we wanted to. Honestly, that's better to lean that way than not that way. The interviewer can always kind of nudge you along like I did. But if you missed out on the mapping out part, that's such a big mistake, because then I have no idea how you're thinking about the problem. And so throughout the interview, I knew exactly how you were going about the problem or what you were thinking about at each stage, which was really, really effective. I loved the concept of vectors for improvement and kind of following along that path. And I actually do think I really, really like the conclusion we came to, and I felt very convinced by it, of this referral system and this impact map, because we use so much logic to get there. My critical feedback is definitely probably it went a little longer than we wanted to in terms of, probably just your excitement about the product also shown through, which is really awesome. But generally, what I think is a really valuable lesson for folks watching is also, Alex, you did a great job of, when I did put the pressure on, you were able to pivot and to reshape the interview in a way that still came to an effective and clear conclusion, even though it may have gone long. And this is one of the most common things that happens in interviews is that you may go a little long, you may not notice the time. A couple of recommendations here: watch the time, check in with the interviewer and ask the interviewer, like, hey, how much time do you think I have to finish this up? And what you did, Alex, which is, if you have to, wrap it up in a nice, clean way and deliver what you've thought about so far to the interviewer. So I want to open up space now, Alex, if you had any thoughts, reactions, or any last tips to share with the viewers today about the interview that we just did.
Yeah, Stephen, that's spot on, spot on. I think great takeaways for the folks watching. You're going to be in this situation. I think structure is just extremely important. Just can't not be overemphasized, right? Exactly, for Stephen, for the reason that you said. If I don't hear the structure, then I don't know what's going to happen, and I don't know if I should nudge the candidate along, or maybe they're about to tell me something. So definitely over-index on that. I think in terms of the excitement, you kind of touched upon that. I usually like to think about interviews, and I think the best interviews are those where you are basically discussing an interesting topic with a colleague or someone that you want to chat with. And if you have that frame of mind, it makes the interviews, first of all, much easier to get through, and much more enjoyable. And ultimately, you will be presenting yourself as more communicative and easy to work with and fun to be around. And ultimately, we want that from our product managers, because the work is pretty tough. And then in terms of wrapping up, I'm so glad you caught on to that, because I had so much more to say on all these topics, and you said, hey buddy, we got 2 minutes left. And so that's the time to really, it's all about prioritization, right? And one of the things you want to show is I can prioritize anything, right? Even when I'm talking about this stuff and I'm gone down this path that is gigantic, well, I got 2 minutes left, so I've got to prioritize. So I thought to myself, okay, what do I prioritize out of all the stuff that we talked about? I'm so excited about all these things, but actually the question was improve the product. So I have to finish with some vectors for improving the product that are, and exactly like you said, because of our journey, it wasn't just that I came out and said, hey, Stephen, Acorns pretty awesome, but they should do more referrals. Like you wouldn't go with me on that one. But because we went through the whole trip together, you think, yeah, actually referrals makes a lot of sense, because we need that competitive advantage. We don't have it. So let's build the competitive advantage, and then let's use the actual referral system to be the competitive advantage. So I think I would love to think about this. And like I said, hopefully Acorns gets a lot of referrals from this very video. I think it's an awesome app. And if the product managers at Acorns want to send us a shout out, then please do. We're very happy to connect. But yeah, I love that feedback, Stephen. Thank you very much for kind of taking close notes, and it's great to hear, to be on the other side for once.
Totally. And overall, Alex, I thought you did a great job of the points that I raised earlier, and really just displaying a lot of senior level product management skill set in interviewing. So I hope folks take note. For those of you watching, if you want to learn more about Alex, you can check out his channel, which will be linked in the description below. And if you liked this video or found it valuable, we really appreciate when you like and subscribe, and we read every single comment on the video. So please do comment, like, and subscribe, and check out Alex's videos. And I do want to thank you again, Alex, for taking the time to be on the show. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure, Stephen. Thank you so much.
All right, and good luck on your upcoming interview.